Today on the show, have we become a nation of workaholics? And if we are, what do we really have to show for it?
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
Ah, what a freaking waste of an evening that was. Oh, man. I can't imagine two teams that America as a whole would be more dispassionate about than the Patriots and the Rams. I mean, if you're from New England, if you're from Boston, then great, amazing, wonderful, cool, insane. The dynasty is intact, yada, yada, yada. But if you're not, ugh. And if you're from Los Angeles, you have to be a pretty able bandwagon jumper to be able to get back on the Rams wagon after the amount of hopping around they've done over the last several years. But yeah, it was one of those moments where the internet exploded with sentiment of, oh man, can't they both lose, when we figured out who was going to the big game. And then the game itself, which we all dutifully watch because that's just sort of what you do, turned out to be mind-numbingly boring. Yeah. First game in Super Bowl history where there wasn't a touchdown scored until the third quarter. Record-breakingly dull. But you know what? I actually kind of thought it was sort of cool what Brady's accomplished. And yeah, you could be a hater. You could say, oh man, they cheated and Deflategate was real and all of the above. And it still is kind of remarkable to me to come across anybody that is head and shoulders above the best at what they do, whether you like them or not. It's remarkable to see someone have that kind of run of success the way Brady and Belichick have had. After the game, I ventured into the interwebs in search of some trivia and interesting facts. And here's what I came up with. It might have been the lowest scoring ever Super Bowl, but 13-3 was the largest point differential for a Tom Brady-Bill Belichick Super Bowl. All the others were decided by 8 or fewer points. The average margin of victory in every other Super Bowl was 15.8 points. Brady wasn't exactly awesome last night. Like, he won, the dynasty is intact and all of the above, but he wasn't at his best. He did orchestrate a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter, which means that Brady now has 6 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter or overtime of the Super Bowl. Nobody else has more than 6 game-winning drives in the entire postseason since 1970. The Rams are the second team in Super Bowl history to fail to score a touchdown. Do you remember? Were you around when the last one happened? It was long before I was born. But I can tell you it was the 1971 Dolphins. 27 of the Rams' 60 plays went for 0 or negative yards. Brady and Belichick, at ages 41 and 66 respectively, are now the oldest quarterback and head coach to win a Super Bowl. Brady passes Charles Haley for the most Super Bowl titles by a player, that's 6, and Belichick ties George Halas and Curly Lambeau for the most NFL championships by a head coach, which is 6. He's got one more, and then he's a record breaker. And you know what? I think he's going to get it. Well, I don't know. It depends. Depends on how long Brady sticks around for and how long Brady can keep it up. I mean, Brady is significantly older than you would imagine, but still managing just fine. I can't imagine that he's going to fall off some sort of physical cliff between now and next year. So I'd hazard a guess he'll play and he'll continue to do well. Although, it's one of those things where you got to be like, okay, we're here to win championships. And if you're Brady, what do you do? Like, what would you do? Do you go, I got 6 of these. 6. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you go out on top with a win? Or do you come back next year and risk going out on a loss? Yeah. It's a tough conundrum, isn't it? I mean, no one can ever take away what he did, but it'd be nice to finish on a win. don't you think, if you were him? Or maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's all gravy. Maybe after 6, who cares? Anyways, the Patriots won their 6th Super Bowl title, tying the Steelers for the most all time. All of New England's have come since 2001, though, within 18 seasons. The Steelers did it in a 35-year span. You know what's interesting? It's kind of interesting. There has been talk of there's always talk of putting this show on in different cities. But when the idea of Boston came up, I was like, is there a space for someone like me in Boston? Like, is there a radio station? I was talking to my agent about it, and he was like, here's the thing. Boston is one of those things where if you're not local and you're not talking about sports, it can be an awfully tough nut to crack. So if you're on in Boston, count on talking about baseball and football at the very least. And I was like, well, I kind of do that a little bit anyway, but not about Boston teams. But yeah, apparently, if you're on in Boston, like 50% of the radio listening that's done has to do with Boston sports. It's interesting, right? And it wasn't always that way because Boston sports used to be, a bit of a running gag. Like I said, Patriots won their 6th Super Bowl title, tying the Steelers for the most of all time, but all of New England's have come since 2001 within 18 seasons. So this is kind of a relatively new thing, historically speaking. The over-under for the Super Bowl closed at 56 total points. The teams combined for 16 points. The 40 points under the 40 points under the Vegas total is the most in any NFL game in the last 30 seasons. So there was history being made left, right, and center. Just very, very dull history. And check this out. The Rams ran 0 plays in the red zone last night, and the Patriots ran 1. No other Super Bowl has seen the teams combine for fewer than 5 red zone plays. Like I said, historically dull. Rob Gronkowski finished the night with 6 receptions for 87 yards, and he now has the most catches by a tight end in Super Bowl history with 23. You might remember that Boston also won the World Series in the fall, so this is Boston's 12th championship in 17 years, which is pretty much why everybody hates them so much. Here's the thing about Boston sports fans, and I've got a lot of family in and around the Massachusetts area, and I love them dearly, but I will say this. There's a lot of people out there that are poor losers. My family, I can't speak for all Bostonians, but my family, the ones that are from Massachusetts and root for Massachusetts teams, they're what you would call poor winners. The Patriots won in 2002, 2004, 2005, 2015, 17, and 19. The Boston Red Sox won in 2004, 2007, 13, and 18. The Celtics won in 2008, and the Bruins won in 2011. The Red Sox even poked some fun at this by congratulating the Patriots on Twitter for, quote, ending that 3-month Boston championship drought. Must be nice. Go Mets.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
You know, we've arrived at an interesting point in pop culture history where I think every single scam ever perpetrated will be compared to the Fire Festival scam. Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Have you seen the documentary on Netflix? Oh, man. Oh, it's fascinating stuff. Oh, it was all a house of cards. It's unbelievable. Like, okay, here's the thing. I actually have a little bit of experience with the stuff that they're talking about. Not only from the side of a guy who's been part of radio station festivals that have been put on and large-scale events like that professionally for the last, I don't know, however long I've been doing radio, 15 or so years. But before that, I was a guy in a band, and we used to play a lot of those festivals. So when I was watching the documentary, which, by the way, do yourself a favor and watch. When I was watching the documentary and seeing how things were unfolding, I was like, oh my God, this is unthinkable. I mean, it's completely haphazard. They had absolutely no idea what they were doing. It was a total house of cards. It was all smoke and mirrors. It was all garbage. And, you know, you run across a lot of that in the music industry. But the incredible part of what the Fire Festival organizers were able to do is convince people that had been in the business for a very long time that they were legit. Like, usually when you've been around that sort of thing for a little while, you know right off the bat if someone's just talking garbage or is in over their head or doesn't know what they're doing or is inexperienced, or if you should run away at all costs because this sounds shaky, like it has every chance of going wrong, and probably will, and definitely has when they've tried doing this in the past. Like, you can, as the Beastie Boys said, sniff suckers out like a beagle after having done this kind of thing for a little bit. So the House of Cards scam element of the Fire Festival was remarkable, but nowhere near as remarkable as the way they were able to get people that were very established and in the know in the music and festival and live entertainment fields to buy into it. Like, hey, we're having this massive festival. It's going to be great, but we need you to set up staging in a different place than we said last week, and we need you to do it in an incredibly short amount of time. Oh, okay. Seems legit. You guys had some really good Instagram posts with supermodels. Absolutely. But anyways, if you haven't seen the documentary, please do yourself a favor and give it a watch. But it seems as though we've arrived at the point in pop culture history where we're going to compare every single future scam to the Fire Festival. Because if so, the Super Bowl ticket scam, this was a Fire Festival of Super Bowl ticket scams. And it didn't even have to involve Ja Rule. There's a businessman, note the sarcastic air quotes around the word businessman, in Atlanta named Keaton Shah. And for the past few months, he'd been advertising special access to really great Super Bowl tickets. And people went, oh, fantastic. And by the way, if you watch the Fire Festival documentary, you'll see that the organizer of the Fire Festival, after the Fire Festival all went kablooey in his face, he was doing something really similar. He was offering special access to events that, well, he didn't have any access to, let alone access of a special variety. But yeah, this businessman in Atlanta by the name of Keaton Shah, for the past couple months, he'd been advertising special access to great Super Bowl tickets, and he wound up scamming about $1 million from around a dozen different people. That's how much he was selling his Super Bowl tickets for. Scammed $1 million off of 12 people. And this is an interesting indicator of his character, because the people that he scammed, well, that included close friends, old business contacts, and even his own mom. Yeah. And then freaking vanished. He's like the Scarlet Pimpernel of ticket scams, folks. They seek him there. They seek him here. They haven't found him yet. He's gone. He's in the wind. The cops say that they're trying to track him down. A spokesman said it's not that he posted some ad and random people are contacting this guy. He's known these people for many years. Special kind of scum. And I would imagine a special kind of desperate. I mean, even the worst of the worst has to be in a really difficult spot to take advantage of your own mother. Anyways, they said we'd certainly like to get his side and see if there's something more, some trouble he's been in. Yeah.
You know where he is? I really don't. I'm sorry. He hasn't been in town since January 3rd, so I don't know what to say.
First reached out to him in November. Everything seemed legit.
A 100 level seating with access to the concierge lounge and a few pre-parties.
It's not that he posted some ad and random people are contacting this guy for tickets and being scammed. He's known these people for many years. One of them he's known his whole life because it's his own mother. But it's a very odd situation that you would take people this close to you and scam this out of this kind of money and then just disappear.
So, you know, if the folks over at CBS or the NFL wanted the safest, least surprising, least shocking, safest Super Bowl halftime show they could possibly get, they definitely made the right choice with our friends in Maroon 5. Now, here's the thing. I'm not a Maroon 5 hater. in any way, shape, or form. Having been a musician, having been through the major label record machine, having seen how it can chew people up and spit them out, I sort of have a kind of admiration for anybody that's capable of navigating it the way they've done. I've never cared for the music of Maroon 5. The music of Maroon 5 is not my bag. Ooh, there was one thing that was really interesting that happened. They opened up with a song that nobody remembered, nobody knew. There was a time long ago in Maroon 5's history when they released their first single, a song called Harder to Breathe. And it was when I was still in a band. And I remember hearing it on the radio. I was like, oh, this is kind of different. This is sort of interesting. And it was on the radio stations that were playing us. It was on alternative rock. And Maroon 5, difficult as it is to believe, at one point were an alternative rock band. At least when they first came out. That's what they were. They were pegged as one of those. And they opened up with their first single, a song called, I think it's called Harder to Breathe. And collectively, America, and that's not the song that made him famous, obviously, or it's not one of the songs that made him famous. And it's a far cry from, what is that, Moves with Jagger song? Anyways, all of America went, huh? What's this? And I remember talking to some friends about it, like, why did they open up with that song that no one's ever heard before? I was like, because it's a good way to cash in on your catalog. You get a chance to do something like this, you play a retrospective. You play a song off of every album, because people that fell in love with your later hits, people that became fans when you had massive pop hits go, what? This was a side of the band I didn't know. I'm going to rush right out and purchase it or stream it or do something that puts money into Maroon 5's pocket, which is why you open up with your first song that no one's ever heard before, or at least, none of your fans today heard before. But yeah, they opened up with that song that was from their alternative rock catalog very early on in their career. They played uninspired, uninventive. That, like I said, I'm not a hater. I just, me personally, I found the whole thing very snoozeworthy. They played a medley of songs like Harder to Breathe, This Love, Squidward from SpongeBob introduced Travis Scott, who did Sicko Mode, bleeps and all. I was kind of surprising. I was like, what, did the audio just cut out? And I was like, no, they were bleeping him. I was like, really? You're doing this on CBS during the halftime show? You couldn't come up with an alternative lyric? I mean, I understand wanting to be uncompromising, but playing a Super Bowl halftime show is compromise. Ask the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who had to explain the fact that they were hopping and bopping around to a pre-recorded track. That's what it is. It's compromise in every sense of the word, but it's something that you do because it's like a sign that you have in some way, shape, or form arrived, and it's also a sign that you are going to sell a hell of a lot of records. And if you're in any way, shape, or form a football fan, it's a tremendously big deal. But Travis Scott, bleeps and all. A few minutes after this came his cameo. Big Boy pulled up in a classic caddy wearing a massive fur coat to sing a little bit of The Way You Move. And what happened next more or less set the internet on fire.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
So yeah, as the internet pointed out, the halftime show put on by Maroon 5 and Travis Scott and Big Boy was an exercise in playing it safe. I have to tell you, I was looking at Adam Levine, and maybe he's tired, maybe that's a look of concentration on his face. I'm not familiar with watching him play live, but Adam Levine of Maroon 5, to me, looked bored. Oh, and by the way, there was a little bit of musical scandal. There's a little bit of musical scandal on this one. And that was Adam Levine's guitar playing. Now, if you are not a musician, this might have completely soared over your head. But musicians I know, guitar players in particular, about lost their damn minds because he in grandiose fashion said, "Can I play guitar for you?" and then proceeded to rip a solo, which, by the way, was an impressive one. Like, Adam Levine can play guitar. Let's not take that away from him. But he wasn't really playing it. And now the big question is, was that actually him playing guitar? Because we've heard him play guitar before, and we've gone, that was surprisingly good. But I mean, the solo was really, really, really surprisingly good. Like, suck on that, John Mayer. What else you got? Steve Vai, Steve Schmei, Clapton, Schmapton, I'm Adam Levine. Like, it was really good, and it was really soulful. And, okay, this is kind of a bit of a musical nerd thing, but a big part of the sound of a guitar comes not only from the guitar that you're playing, not only the gauge of strings that you use, not only the pickups in your guitar, not only the amplifier that you're playing through and whatever pedals you got going on besides that. A big part of how you get your sound as a guitar player is your natural ability, your tone. It's the way your fingers touch the fretboard. It's really pure technique. And it's something that can't be duplicated or replicated. There's not a pedal for it. There's not an effect for it. It's sort of something that is one of the last bastions of things that you cannot fake. And the tone in the guitar solo that Adam Levine played, in my humble opinion, if you're a guitar player, you might disagree, but the tone was nothing short of spectacular. And I was watching it and I was going, damn, he must really be playing, because he said, can I play guitar for you? And you would never say that if you were going to mime a guitar solo. But then I was just like, I'm pretty sure he's not actually playing this right now. He's probably doing what the Red Hot Chili Peppers said they did. Like, a lot of people called out the Red Hot Chili Peppers when they played the halftime show, because they're like, you're dancing around and your instruments aren't even plugged in. You're clearly faking it. And they came totally clean. They're like, look, this was the experience of a lifetime for us. We are huge sports fans. There was no way we were ever going to be able to do this on our own terms and play live. This is just what you have to do. You're at the mercy of the television network. You're at the mercy of the NFL in these situations. So what we did was we went into the studio and we pre-recorded a special live performance, which would be aired back. So we weren't just putting on the CD and bopping around to that. We recorded ourselves playing live like we would in concert, and then we bopped around to that instead. They were miming to a special one-off performance that they'd pre-recorded, which is still cheating, but that's the Red Hot Chili Peppers were really good about coming clean in that situation. And I'm guessing that's what Maroon 5 might have done, but that guitar solo that Adam Levine, note the sarcastic air quotes around this word, played was really something. And if it was actually him playing, he's a phenomenal guitar player with phenomenal tone. But that's like the big muso scandal with regard to the Super Bowl halftime show. Was Adam Levine actually playing the guitar? Probably not. Was that him playing the guitar on the pre-recorded segment? The plot thickens. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, the internet was pretty freaking savage. One of my favorite tweets, I know nothing about Maroon 5, but I did recognize that last song because I have often been to a Walgreens, courtesy of one Philip Anderson. But yeah, there was that medley, Harder to Breathe, This Love. SpongeBob SquarePants character Squidward introduced Travis Scott, who did Sicko Mode, Bleeps and all, and then a few minutes after his cameo, Big Boy, who was the Atlanta connection, pulled up in a classic caddy. And I have to imagine there was all sorts of pressure to get Outkast there. You know, Andre and Big Boy are Outkast, and he did an Outkast song. It was sort of one of his solo songs from his Outkast days, but he did an Outkast song, so I have to imagine there was tremendous pressure for the band to reform and do that. They only managed to get Big Boy, but he pulled up in a classic caddy, wearing a massive fur coat to sing a little bit of The Way You Move, and then all hell broke loose, because after he exited the stage, it happened. During moves like Jagger, Adam Levine took off his shirt and showed both erect nipples. Sadly, neither nip had a ring around it like Janet Jackson's did back in the day. And the internet about lost its mind, saying, hold on a second. Hold on. Janet Jackson was crucified for this. This doesn't seem fair. The only noteworthy thing about the performance was what it did not include, which was any reference to Colin Kaepernick or the national anthem protest. Some people also pointed out that the drum line used during the show was predominantly white, which seemed out of place in a city as diverse as Atlanta. But the NFL did enlist several civil rights icons, including Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter, Bernice, to do the coin toss before the game. The show got a lot of online hate. Even some celebrities took shots. LeBron James was unhappy with how little time Travis Scott was given. And I think, what do people call it? If gentrification were a Super Bowl halftime show. Larry King said that it was rousing. On the flip side, everybody loved Gladys Knight's national anthem, as well as Chloe and Halle, I think that was what they were called, Atlanta duo, singing America the Beautiful. Oh, and one last note. This past Friday, Cardi B said she turned down the halftime show to stand with Colin Kaepernick, but on Saturday, she performed at a Super Bowl event in Atlanta, even danced with Patriots owner Robert Kraft. Although, I got to tell you, there's a big difference between getting on TV and doing that and hanging out at an event. You're making a public statement when you get on TV and do that sort of thing. I have to say, for me, the whole thing was the final nail in the coffin of there being any sort of rebellion left in tattoos. Because Maroon 5 were, look, let's be real here. A lot of people said they were dull, bland, boring. And there was this massive Adam Levine striptease in which he revealed that as many tattoos as he'd had in the past, he got even more. And it was interesting because, like, tattoos for the longest time in our lifetime were a real symbol of rebellion. You were making a choice. You were making a decision. You were making a real statement when you got tattoos. Specifically tattoos that were, I guess, below the elbow. And especially if they wound up on your hands or your neck. If you were tattooed on your hands or your neck or any place like that, you were basically going, I am outside society. I will not be living a pedestrian or common life. I will not have a job that requires me to look or act like I blend in. I think they were one of the last few bastions of individuality that could be expressed through the way you looked. Now there's no shock value left. I spend all my time when I think about musicians that are trying to be extreme or trying to be shocking or trying to be controversial, wondering at what point it all became hot air. I think the last time anyone was genuinely shocked by a musician might have been Marilyn Manson, just because at the time no one had ever seen anything that looked like that. Now everybody looks like that. Now that's pedestrian. Now everyone's used to that. Now everybody knows that, you know, Marilyn Manson is kind of sort of a normal guy that appears on shows like David Letterman and is funny and engaging and all of the above. At the time, it was like, holy crap, what has that guy got going on? And now it's sort of like, nah, whatever. And then I think tattoos were the last remaining sort of visual representation of the fact that you were not going to conform to societal norms. And man, Adam Levine being tattooed from head to toe and then being responsible for what people are calling the dullest, most safe, most boring, most pedestrian halftime show of all time. For me, that was the final blow struck to the idea that there was in any way, shape, or form any kind of rebellion left in getting ink on your body. It's over. It's done. I mean, if you got tattoos, that's awesome. I'm not taking anything away from that. But if you are getting tattoos to express your individuality and your outsiderness, when the guy who's the 2019 equivalent of Michael Bolton, Kenny G, or Air Supply has more than you, there's not much rebellion left there.
Radio.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So you and I will get into the events of today in our segment, My Witness News, in just a little bit. But, you know, one of the other things that I watched over the weekend, besides those hours of football, which were basically hours of my life that I'll never get back. But one of the things I watched over the weekend that I really freaking enjoyed was this documentary series. It's on Netflix. I think it's called The Toys That Made Us. Do yourself a favor and check it out. Especially if you grew up playing with toys like G.I. Joe or He-Man or Barbie dolls or Lego. It's fascinating stuff. And to hear how these toys came to be and how they were developed and how they had so much to do with societal development at the time is really, really kind of interesting. But one of the things that they examined were Transformers. And one of the things they did was they talked to this guy, Peter Cullen, who was the voice of Optimus Prime and still is the voice of Optimus Prime. I think that's his name, Peter Cullen. There might be Transformers nerds out there chomping at the bit to correct me. But it made me think a little bit about voices. And, well, you know, it's kind of interesting because you and I, we hang out. I do this show. We talk. We have conversations about the issues of the day. We have conversations about things that are funny or amusing in our lives. We share thoughts and hopes and dreams and all of the above. But sometimes I get these emails from people. A lot of the time I get emails from people saying, I really like the sound of your voice. Not like I have a great voice or not like I have a special voice or a different voice, but people say something about your voice sets me at ease. And you know what? I absolutely relate to it because there's some voices that set me at ease. And it's not necessarily the fact that I'm saying a specific thing that some people that listen to this show enjoy. It's the sound of my voice, which is, hey, I'll take it. If I bring happiness or pleasure or joy or relief to anybody, I'm super stoked. And it's interesting. There's been more than one person that has gotten at me saying I suffer from anxiety, I suffer from depression. There's something about your voice that really calms me down and kind of makes me feel like things are going to be okay. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if that's the tone of my voice or the quality of my voice or the fact that we spend so much time on this show going, settle the hell down. Everything's going to be fine. People are just looking for stuff to be outraged at. We're basically good. We basically want the same stuff. And you know what? If we just relax a little bit and get on the same page, everything's going to be chill. Irie, as our friends in the reggae community would say. But that's really nice. That's really nice to know that some people just hear my voice and get something out of that. And if it's a sense of calm or a sense of everything's going to work out, everything's going to be okay, man, I'm super happy about that. And I get it because there's certain people's voices who do that for me as well. And when they had this guy, the voice of Optimus Prime on, it was amazing because here's the voice of Optimus Prime coming out of not a robot, not a cartoon robot. And it was amazing to hear it. And it transported me back to being a little kid and watching Transformers cartoons and then the Transformers movies and everything that entails. All of a sudden, I guess the way certain smells can bring you back or songs can bring you back, the sound of this guy's voice is Optimus Prime. All of a sudden, I'm a little kid hoping to buy my own Transformers with the money that I've saved up from mowing lawns and stuff like that. It was amazing. It was amazing hearing this guy's voice, and it really made me think how powerful the human voice can be. And that made me think of our friend Pablo Francisco. To be able to do voices, man, it's such an incredible, amazing gift. Here's Pablo Francisco doing Al Pacino making a deal with Kermit the Frog.
You've probably seen Al Pacino as Tony Montana. Now on double DVD, see footage you've never seen before. See Tony Montana do a drug deal with Kermit the Frog.
Okay, the money stays in back, okay? If I'm not back in 15 minutes, something's wrong, okay? Okay, let's go. Intra. Hey, it's okay if my friends stand outside to know that everything's okay. Sure, come on in. Grover says, that's you okay? That's good. So, do you have the money? I don't know. She got his stuff? Not with me now, but it's nearby. It's in the car, huh? No, it's not in the car. You want me to go outside? We'll try again. Where you from, Tony? What difference where I'm from? You stop messing around, Frog, and get to that business, okay? I just get my stuff at Sesame Street. Oh yeah? Well, can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? Thank you.
Like I said, it is a tremendous gift to be able to do voices. It's good stuff. Hey, you know what else is a gift? Knowing when to chill the hell out and have that work-life balance. You and I talk about this an awful lot on the show. You and I talk about how the luxury in America is less money than it used to be and more time these days. And you know, it's one of those things, as you and I have discussed over and over again, one of the best things that you can do for the world and for yourself, but one of the best things that you can do for the world is to get out into it. Is to see parts of it that you haven't seen before, meet people that are different than you, experience things that are not the same as what you're used to. It's been proven time and time and time again that prejudice, the one thing that stops prejudice is contact, meaning it's much more difficult to stay angry, to stay mad, to stay hateful. When you meet someone that you're supposed to be angry at, scared of, or hate, and they turn out to be pretty freaking decent, relatable, want the same things you do, are also a human being. Contact brings compassion. Compassion breaks down prejudice. So one of the best things that we can do for the world is to get out into it. And that's really tough because we're all working like 18 million jobs. And I was staggered by this statistic that I came across today. That is in the New York Post, I think. Almost 50% of us consider ourselves workaholics. Yeah, almost half of Americans now consider themselves to be workaholics. We don't have the luxury of time to get out into the world. We're too busy producing, working, being on that hamster wheel, that treadmill, trying to live, eat, pay rent, pay bills, raise kids, do all the things that we have to do. And as a result, we get caught up. That work-life balance is shot to hell. And, well, 50% of us almost say we're workaholics. Here are the signs that you really are one, according to the science behind it. If you prioritize your work over your personal life, you're a workaholic. If you worry about work during your days off, yeah, probably. If you struggle to completely stop working on vacation, absolutely. If you check your work email at night, oh my gosh, I check it at night and the first thing when I wake up in the morning. It never ends. If you're often the first person to get to work and the last to leave, if you feel like you can't take vacation because you're too busy to take lunch, you usually work through it. You feel anxious if you don't check in or know what's happening at work. Your friends or family say you work too much, or you check your work email first thing in the morning. Now, this is most people I know. And we're becoming a nation of workaholics, it sounds like. We should probably do something about that.